Alright, today I'm going to show you how to build your own flamethrower. Kind of the parts you'll need and how I set it up here. You can kind of take that and go from there. But let's start with over here. So I'm using a nitrogen tank. I know I see some people using compressed air, but I prefer to use nitrogen in my cylinder that's going to hold gas. I don't have to worry about any flashback or any combustion that's possible inside the tank, because it'll just be filled with gas and nitrogen. But what you're going to want to need to do beyond that is you're going to need a small vessel. Now fire extinguishers work the best. There's a lot of options to find with them though. So I've got this one where the head will actually unscrew, which makes it real easy to fill up with gas, or I don't know, use whatever you want, I suppose. Also the end, as you can see, some of them you can actually get a threaded fitting that you could reuse. Mine didn't have that, so I had to cut it and put a barb in there and hose clamp it down, then couple it, and then put it to a connection piece for my hose. And so the trick with these, what you're going to want to do is you fill it up with gasoline. You're not going to need much. I usually fill it up about maybe a third of the way or something like that. And then you're going to need to hook it up to your nitrogen tank. Now in order to charge a fire extinguisher, their green zone is usually about like 195 psi or so. They don't take a charge until you can initially get over about 200 psi. So it's a little harder on some small air compressors to do it because they usually won't max out that high. But something like a nitrogen tank is capable of, over 1,000 psi. So once you break the 200 psi mark, the fire extinguisher will actually take pressure. And I've only ever charged it up to about that green zone, which is the 195, and that provides more than ample amount of flame necessary. So once you've got your gas in your tank screwed back together, this clamp you can ignore for now. The handle doesn't need to be down to charge it. That's just part of using it. But go ahead and charge the cylinder all the way up. Get yourself up to about that 195 mark. And then you can take the hose off the nitrogen tank and just connect between here and then whatever you're going to use for your sprayer. Now what I did is I found a rod here, which is actually like a part of a pressure washer. I went with that because it's long, it's narrow, and it's threaded on both ends. Now some pressure washer attachments won't have the threaded fitting on the end here, which is going to make it real tough. So if you can find one with a threaded fitting that you can unscrew and then screw something back on, it's going to be a lot more easier to work with. And so you can see I just got a shut off down here. This is kind of what I use for my on and off when I'm using it. Because what I end up doing, which I'll show you in the next video when I'm using it, is I put the clamp on here to pull the handle down and keep the handle down. It's kind of rudimentary. I mean, you could do something a little fancier, but that's what I do to keep the pressure open on this end. And then that way all I've got to do is operate this handle once it's in my hand, and I can turn the flame on and off as quick as I needed to. And you can see even the length of tube by the time you get combustion down here, as long as you're not letting the cylinder run all the way down to zero or something like that, you're never going to get flashback if you shut the handle fast enough. And like I said, that's why I use the nitrogen, so there's no oxygen until it combusts at the very end. And at the very end, I've experimented with a few different nozzles and stuff like that, and the narrower you go, actually the better it's going to be. So I had to go with a pretty narrow one. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been 1/8 inch or something like that, but a pretty small spray. And then just get yourself a propane torch. The self-igniting or something that's going to stay on once you turn it on is going to be great. And then I just hose clamped it to the the wand. And so what you do is you just turn it on, you get your pilot flame going, get all your hoses hooked up, and you can put the tank, however, 3 feet behind you or something of that nature, and just turn the ball valve on and off as your pleasure goes, and away you go. Like I said, I'll put a link to the bottom for using it, but give me a minute to set it all up here and I'll show you how it works.